Hello, Lisa, and hello, all of my beautiful students. I'm so happy that you are here with us and that you will share your knowledge and your experience through your life to be, and what is the experience for you to be one reflector in such a generator world. First of all, I would like to ask you, I prepared some questions. So first, I would like to read one of them. It will be in what way others impact you as you are a reflector, and how do you feel when you are in an environment that is not nurturing you, environment that is toxic for you as one reflector. We can start with that. Maybe you can say some few words about reflectors in general, and then you can share with us what does it mean that environment is not good for you, and how do you feel inside of your body? Maybe I asked too many questions. Sorry.
No, not at all. You just bring me back, because one of the things that I can share about reflectors is we don't have a lot of consistency. So if I forget what the questions are, just bring me back.
Okay.
What I can share is that I can share my experience. None of us are going to have the same experience just because we're the same type. Mm-hmm. So what I'll speak about from my personal experience, not so much as reflectors as a whole, except that we do have a tendency to be a little scattered around because we don't have any consistency in our charts. There are times that we can be very inconsistent in our behaviors as well. Some people are conditioned to be consistent and learn the habits of being consistent, but naturally we're pretty inconsistent. That moon fluctuates so much in our chart every month, and that's where the inconsistency comes from. We are affected more so by outside influences like planetary activations, and not just the moon, but we do change dramatically, quickly, daily because of the moon.
Yeah, and it was interesting for me when I was preparing the classes for my students that I read in our book that reflectors are called moon on the earth. You are representative of the moon on the earth, and it is so precious attitude for you to be like that, and you are here to learn that there is no good or bad, that only in our world exists diversity, right? There is no...
Exactly.
I remember you from our classes. You are always see a bigger objective picture of everything that we are talking. I am very much strict and very focused. I have a defined mind. The others have different types, but you are always like hugging us and giving us a totally different flow of energy. And really thank you for that. And can you help us in understanding that way of functioning in this life?
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. I do see things from a little bit of a different perspective than everyone else, maybe other reflectors as well. It's objective, as you mentioned. I find it hard to judge. And yet they call reflectors, they call us judges, because we are so objective. It's very difficult for me to take sides, even though I want to take a traditional, emotional, conditioned approach, because I've been conditioned for years. So when people behave a certain way, it's easy for me to jump into what I would naturally have judged in the past. But it's very, it's quick to come back and say, wait, that person has this reason for doing this, and that person has that reason for reacting this way, and that person, you know, reacted that way. And it's easy for me now, thanks to finding human design and thanks to practicing my strategy and authority, I've learned when I feel myself getting into a judgmental space, I know it's how things used to be. And how I naturally am is to not judge. So it felt very comfortable for me to move into a place of being more accepting. And that happened at least 10 years ago. Before I found human design, I decided, I made a mental decision to not be affected in any way that I didn't want to be emotionally by someone else's behavior. So those practices became very natural for me. And when I found human design and I learned about being a reflector, it made sense because it was so easy for me to, I can't say easy. It was simple. It was a simple decision to make. And it was a simple philosophy to remind myself when I felt myself spiraling into judgments. But it was easy to step out of it. And I think it's because of the natural tendencies as a reflector to see everything the way, and it's just without definition. Without definition, definition is narrow and focused in a specific way. And without definition, I don't have a lot of narrow, specific focusing. So sometimes it's very challenging because I don't think like other people. Yes. So I'm not sure I answered all of your questions or all of the parts of your first questions.
You know what came to my mind? Because you are changing according to the movement of the moon. That means that you are, during the day, can be a projector. At the end of the day, you can be a generator. And you are moving through all those types that we are experiencing, right? Or I'm not correct.
It's not that we become a projector or we become a generator. Okay. It's that we feel the nuances of what those activations feel like. So just like if you were to be in the aura of someone that had a gate or a channel that you don't have, you don't become that. But you will experience, or not, you'll experience it maybe not consciously, or you might not be aware of it, but you'll experience being different around that person or those people. So you don't really become something different. You just get activated temporarily. And then, of course, in there can be conditioning. So when you are activated by someone else or an outside transit, your experience then becomes your own. And then that becomes something that can condition you. So I guess that's a good explanation for why there are so many fluctuations for a reflector, because no matter what's happening in the transit, we fluctuate when we're just around different people more so, because we don't have narrow focused definition that's consistent. So a great example, I was out last night with a friend and we went to a bar and I found someone who wanted to know more about human design. And I had a whole conversation and we were at the corner of a bar. And I said, everyone over there is 70%. They're all, sharing this interactive energy as generators. I said, everybody from that point over. I said, everybody from this point over. I was with two manifestors. So it was a reflector and two manifestors. I said, everybody from over here, we're doing our own thing. That's why we're over here in the corner. And that's why everyone else is over there. It was such a great example. And watching all of that aura of generator energy being shared in and out and extending outward and coming back inward. And there were the two other types in the corner by the dartboard, just kind of observing. So me with my Teflon aura, where everything just kind of falls off, and the two manifestors with their impact, their protective shield. And it's very interesting to have those experiences when you can actually talk about them with someone, because this guy was very interested in learning more about it. So wow. I'm impacted and affected by that other energy, but I walk away from it, and I'm at a point in my awareness level and just maturity. And, you know, of course, human design helped to be able to say, when I don't feel like I want this anymore, I can walk away. Sometimes I don't shake it off that easy. So, you know, and that's probably a lot of conditioning. So what I feel, and those sensations and those activations from others and conditioning and planetary activations, it becomes something that I have to remind myself that it will go away. Sometimes I get uncomfortable, and do I know what it is? No. Was it a person? Was it a specific planetary activation? I don't check the transits that regularly. If something is affecting me, I just know it's time to go. It's time to go home to my little safety environment. And I don't necessarily open the app and check to see what the activations are. Sometimes I do, if it's dramatic and drastic. But if it's that dramatic, I don't always have the clarity to think this might be a transit. Sometimes I just, you know, if I just don't, sometimes it's like when you're sick, you don't necessarily need to know what's wrong. You just need to go to bed, and you know, you'll feel better. That's what it feels like sometimes.
Wow. Beautiful explanation. Thank you for this. I would like to invite all of you, if you have some of the questions in general about reflectors, or it might help you if I share Lisa's chart, and maybe some of the questions will pop up.
I have a question.
Please.
Okay. Can I?
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious. I would like to, because you were saying how you were sitting in the other corner, and it was you as a reflector and two other manifestators, and you actually felt that energy. You knew exactly that the generators, all the generators were in another corner. So what I'm trying to find out that, is there a way that if I ever am sitting somewhere with a reflector, is there a way for me to know that I'm dealing with a reflector without looking at the chart?
No, and I apologize if I led you to believe that I could tell they were all generators. That was a guess. It was just a good example to show that the reflector and two manifestors were on one side of the room, and to show the percentages, just an example of the percentages, and the way that everybody else was intermingling gave me the impression that a lot of them were generators, and I'm sure many of them were projectors as well, because there's a special relationship between generators and projectors. So a good part of that the rest of the room was not just the 70% generators, but the 20% projectors as well. And then the other 10% were the two manifestors and myself over in the corner. So it was really just an example of how the averages and the numbers would be broken up and how you could envision it. Boy, I would have loved the opportunity to go through that room and get a chart on every single one of those other people and really see what the possibility was of those numbers being correct. But there really is no way. There's no way to tell. There have been times that there was one specific time that I was able to know I had a manifestor behind me. I can't say no. I was very certain in what I was feeling that I was willing to bet she was a manifestor, and I did her chart and she was a manifestor. But with conditioning and so many other things at play. Type is a very small, it's a very small category. What happens then is that the activations come in and start putting, layering other effects on top of type. So you could probably meet a really not self manifester and be met with anger, but I'm sure you could meet a not self generator and be met with anger and think they were both manifestors. And you could meet the two manifestors that I was with last night. One of them was my friend. The other one was a guy that was sitting at the bar next to us. I didn't know he was a manifestor until I ran his chart, but my friend I knew was a manifestor. She is the sweetest, kindest, most loving, warm human being, but she's also a Cancer. So I don't know if you know anything about astrology, but Cancers are very affectionate and take really good care of their friends and family. She's like, talk about feeling a warm hug, but it's the Cancer aspect that was added to, and she's conditioned by her environment as well. So you're looking at three different things. You're looking at type, you're looking at some other influences in there as far as if you want to consider planetary zodiac type things, and you're looking at conditioning. So it's very difficult to tell just from being around someone, but it doesn't stop me from trying because it's fun.
Right. No, I'm just, it's very, I don't know how many times in life I will get to meet any reflectors because there's not that many of you. So I'm hoping that if I ever meet somebody that, it would be nice for me to know that, without, not everybody is ever going to, I'm not going to be going around and asking people to give me so that I can look at their charts, But if just by some accident I'm sitting, with some reflector, it would be nice for me to know that. But I understand what you were saying. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have also a few questions, if I can.
Please do.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
I have one reflector in my family, very close to me. So I send you a request on Facebook. So thank you very much that you accepted.
You're welcome.
Answer. Some answers will be later for you. I want to know, do you have lots of friends, or do you prefer to have a few friends in your life and that's it?
I don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people around me who appreciate me, who care for me, and who are very good to me. So I don't want to say I don't have a lot of friends, but as far as close friends, no, I don't. And I spend a great deal of time by myself. Mm-hmm. And I can't say that I love it. It might be because of just circumstances that became, that led me to where I am. And I am changing that. I am consciously looking to change that through, and as I said, this person that I was out with last night, this manifestor friend, she's very open to this type of information. So we will get along better because I can talk about the things that are important to me. And I know that even though she doesn't understand human design, she will meet me with a level of acceptance and curiosity. So it's difficult. I am different. I've always known that I was different, even as a child, but feeling different as a child was very painful. So feeling different as an adult feels more comfortable, but I'll give human design a lot of credit for that, because explaining these different things about me, really, that's what gave me the interest and the energy to complete these trainings, because I learned so much about me that I realized there's got to be some real valuable information for a lot of other people as well. But to answer that question, no, I don't have a lot of friends, but when I do have friends, they're very good friends. And I love very deeply. So with a totally open solar plexus, it's fun to guess what it would be like to have more emotional activations. As far as Teflon goes, I can say that I think I am getting better at letting things roll off of me because I have that image in my mind, and I know what I know about human design. I know what I know about myself. So the people who are in my life are very, very, very important to me, and I hold them very dear. Do I see them often? No, they live very different lives than me. So I would be very interested in knowing why you asked the question.
Well, because that person that I mentioned also don't have friends and doesn't like. I wouldn't say he doesn't like people, but he likes to be only with his family. And the others, it seems like they're not important to him. So just I wanted to know if it's something personally or this something in a correlation with human design because of this.
Probably both. It's probably both. I would love to see the activations in the chart, because even though there's technically no consistent energy running through a reflector's chart, there is a consistency to the cycle that we live through in relationship to what we do have activated in our chart. So there are very clear details in the chart that could lend themselves to that. Mm-hmm. So as I said earlier, type is really less important than the specific activations in a lot of ways. Obviously, with strategy and authority, you need to know your type. You need to know how to operate correctly for you. But then it goes into a totally different level of understanding in detail.
And also, when people ask you something, do you have an answer that is always pretty much the same and not precise? Because this reflector, when somebody asks him something, it's pretty much the same answer for everything. It's okay, yes and no, probably, why not? Nothing precisely. I cannot have precise answers, so I'm not every time sure. Do I understand what he wants? What are the real essence of everything we are talking about? Because it's really, really undefined everything.
Okay,
So,
I want to ask you a question. First thing I want you to do is, can you pronounce your name, because I want to address you personally. Can you pronounce your name?
Ivančica.
Ivančica. Okay, Ivančica. I want to ask you: have I been vague in the way that I've been answering the questions so far on this Zoom call?
Yes, because you know what you have to do this evening. But in unusual life, when somebody asks you, do you like this or that? I don't know, not so specific things. When we ask about the job, everything is very precise. But everything else but the job, it's really undefined with this reflector. So I just wanted to know if you have some specific things that you like to talk on, to like to, I don't know how to explain it.
I think I get it. I think I'm getting the idea. So if I was asked about where I wanted to go or what I wanted to eat and that type of thing, I am very fluid. I'm very fluid. And sometimes it really doesn't matter. I'm more interested in the interaction than the food, where it is, the atmosphere. I'm more interested in who I'm with than what I'm going to eat or how I'm going. You know, I shouldn't say where I'm going, because sometimes environment is very important, but with an open G, if you're not in the right environment, you can oftentimes, and going back to Yelena's earlier question, you can oftentimes feel that there's a problem. But for me, at this stage of my knowledge and of my life, I know that if I feel uncomfortable and I'm in the wrong environment, I also know it's temporary. So I have a little bit of a different response to that, depending on how drastic it is. So the person that you're talking about might not really care that much. So what type are you?
I'm manifesting generator.
Okay. You probably have more specifics. You live in a more specific way. You have definition that is consistent. So you have a consistent way of knowing yourself. As a reflector, I'm not going to say I don't know myself, but there are things that aren't that strictly important. So if this person is vague about his answers, it just might be the way he is. And as a reflector, I can say, I am that way. Is that why he's the same way as, is that why there's a similarity? I can't tell you for sure, but it's a good possibility, because there is a fluidity and a movement about being a reflector that if you don't embrace it, you fight against yourself. So there are things that aren't that important, and the things that were very important, if I was to force and try to create an outcome specific to what I really wanted, none of us can really do that. Even manifestors, we really can't change anything. We just have to go with the flow of the way life is showing up for us. So as a reflector, it's easier for us to be that way, unless the conditioning is that dramatic, or unless there are some things that are activations in the chart that could create a lot of conflict and provocation and different things. So again, the chart activations are much more important than just the overall generalized idea of him being a reflector. But I could say it probably does have something to do with the fluidity of just learning to go with the flow. We have no choice.
He's also 1-3 profile.
But,
okay,
but so
it's written to this chart. It's written the establisher of knowledge and truth. I don't know. It's a little bit different from your.
Is that, Jelena, is that something in genetic matrix?
Probably.
What is the establisher? What she just mentioned, the establisher of?
I think it's from Jovanian. I think.
Jovian archive.
Yes, the establisher of knowledge and truth, but profile 1-3. I don't know. It's the same, but the other terms. But I don't know.
Other terms. 1-3 is investigator and marcher.
Okay, but it's
well,
1-3.
What I can tell you about being a 1-3 and knowing other 1-3s, the 1-3 profile is the most introspective. So we are very centered on what's happening within us, more so than what's happening outside of us. So when you take into consideration, you're looking at a reflector who doesn't have consistent activations, and a reflector who's very introspective and much more interested in what's going on in ourselves, say, than the 4th line or the 5th line, which is an externalized line. You're dealing with someone who probably can spend a lot of time by himself and really not care. But it's not that he doesn't care. It's that he doesn't appear to care the way other people think caring should look. That's the outside perspective of the homogenized opinions of what things should look like. So I wouldn't say that he doesn't care. I would just say that he probably doesn't really care.
Yeah, it seems just like this person. Yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Does anybody have another question, maybe? If not, I would like to ask you, Lisa, a little bit about you, about your chart. You have totally open ajna and you have totally open solar plexus. That means that you are amplifying much more energy from the others through those two centers. Can you tell us which one of those two are most of your challenges through life?
I think at this very point, I'm going to say ajna in this particular conversation. Okay. I have a lot of not self-activation coming from the 47 and the 4 because of my Plutos, okay. And my Saturns. So Saturn and Pluto can be mean. See, Pluto, I mean, they both have something on the other side that is not so mean. But yeah, Pluto and Saturn are tough. And those are in my in the head center, pointing at all of the possibilities of the not self of the 47 and the 4 and the not self of the ajna center. Oh. So at this point, but what that really leads to, believe it or not, I feel more not self in the G center than anywhere else. And ironically, that's where my incarnation cross is. And it's all about direction, and it's all about leadership and you know, self-expression and being empathic. Mm-hmm. So when I struggle the most, it is about love, identity, and direction. It's about where am I going? Who's going to love me? How will I ever be accepted? Mm. So I would also relate that to emotion, because there's an emotional wave with that as well. So when I get really, really low, I know to just ride out whatever's happening. Mm-hmm. But I don't technically have an emotional wave, but I've been conditioned by emotional waves my entire life. Mm. You know, more than, 50% are solar plexus defined with solar plexus authority. So I've been so conditioned in that center, but the beauty is, and the same with the ajna center, I'm supposed to know the answers. That's what homogenized community says. That's what the greater world of population says. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to know the answer. And if you don't know the answer, you're supposed to find the answer, and you're supposed to be certain about the answer. Mm. And the same with, with the emotional solar plexus. I've been very conditioned to be emotional and to have an emotional wave, or to feel like I have an emotional wave. Mm-hmm. So as a reflector, I will just come home by myself, be by myself, take myself out of whatever doesn't feel good for me. And is it the emotional conditioning of what's going on in the world? Is it the fact that I'm judging myself because I don't have the answers about where I'm going and who's going to love me, and is anyone going to accept me for me? You know, they all go, not self works really well. The not self are good friends. And it does come down to value as well. You know, the ego center, it comes down to, what do I, do I value myself, and what do I find valuable to me, and who will find me of value in their lives, or to bring that tribal value to me. So there was a lot of information in there, but I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Thank you very much. I'm just checking. Do you know transits for today, or 2 days before started? We have a 14. That means that you are have defined sacral center, G center, and the earth is in a gate 8. That means that you, through these days, will have activation in those centers as well. You know, that means that you have you have it.
I saw all of the global conditioning.
Oh my gosh.
Because there's a lot going on in this.
Yeah.
But I didn't look specifically at the 14 or the 8.
Yeah.
And that's in the sun and earth. I didn't look specifically because the other activations are what are activating the other centers. The 8 and the 14 aren't necessarily activating the throat or the sacral center. It's the other channels that are. So yeah. So it's in line 3. When did it move in? I didn't check. Do you remember when it moved into 8 and 14?
Yes, 2 days ago. I don't know according your time, your zone, but in our country right now is in line 2.
Oh, it's in line 2 because we're in line 3 here. Well, it's fun to look at that because that was what was activated last night when I was out. So I had my 14-2 and my 1-8, and boy, did I make a creative contribution to the guy that I was talking to last night. I was on fire, and he kept saying, "Oh my God, I'm so appreciative, and you made me feel so good, and I love this information, and you're like magic." And I kept thanking him because it was so good to hear. So I guess I was on fire last night.
You see what transits bring you.
Yeah. And I had with my 12, the 1222 was an activation. So I had the nuances of solar plexus definition as well.
Me too, baby. For such a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was so nice conversation. I really don't want to bother you. Maybe if some of the girls have one additional question.
Jelena, you have a question from Tjasha in the messenger.
Oh, I didn't. Can you read it, please? Because I'm in messenger.
Yes, ma here.
Here. Can you read it, please? Because I cannot open it and I cannot see it.
Možeš li pitati je li, na primjer, projektor, generator, manifestator sa profilom 1.3 kao što je njen bliže kao drugi profili? Ne razumijem ja točno. Možda ako su ostali profil 1.3 kao i ona, da li im je se osjeća valjda bliže?
Ja, to sam mislila, znaš, da li ima opšte kakšen uticaj isti profil 1.3, da li je sve, razumeš, da li je razlika 1.3
može.
Ili nema veze.
Lisa, we have one more question. Is it difference when we talk about profile, your profile, 1.3, is it the differences in different types in human design, especially generators, projectors, manifestors, or reflectors? Is there difference in that? Because 1.3 is some kind of costume that we are wearing in this life, right?
It's the same profile, but it's going to show up differently with each type and with each gate activation. So I'm a 1.3, which does overall color my chart, as you know, in every open center and in every open gate or channel, we're going to experience that in the first line as a 1.3. But each layer, so type profile, activations, different centers, everything does factor in. But a 1-3 is a 1-3. There's really no way to say that it's not, but every 1-3 is not going to be the same, just like every reflector isn't going to be the same. So a 1-3 manifesting generator will be much different than a 1-3 reflector, will be much different than a 1-3 projector, but it's not just the profile lines, it's the gate activations as well. So every 1-3 will be introspective, no doubt. Every 1-3 will have the nuances of a 1-3, the insecurity of the one. There's nothing underneath us. So we're building from scratch. We don't know anything as a 1. We have to start at the beginning. And the 3 is a lot of 3 is pessimistic. A lot of 3 is in my not self. My 3 was tough. Now with being so much more aware, my 3 is just like, whatever. Yes, I can be pessimistic, but I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do whatever it is that I want to do to try it on and to feel what it's going to feel like, regardless of whether or not it's going to hurt. Because I know that after I come out of it, I'll heal. So those things aren't going to go away as a 1-3, regardless of generator or projector or manifestor or reflector. But each person wearing the 1-3 costume is going to appear differently. That's what I love about human design, is how detailed it is and how individual each one of us is. Exactly. And that's why it's the science of differentiation. It's every single one of us is different, and every single one of us is going to need to be accepted for who we are. And most of us have not been. So, going forward, it's a great way to I guess just in the changing world right now, being compassionate to who each of us is and how special and different each of us is going to be so much more important, which is why I love human design in helping us see that for ourselves and for each other, and hopefully more people in general.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love you so much, Lisa. You said so smart things right now. Thank you for this, really.
You're welcome. And we if there's another question, you're not taking up too much of my time. I'm happy to be here.
I have just a little one. Lisa, do you have any reflectors in your environment? So maybe you knew some reflectors. So how do you feel with them when you can you relate with them more than with the others?
It's different for each one. There are 3 that I'm pretty close to. One whose chart I shared in class, which we complete a full 9-centered single definition together. Whoa. So 2 reflectors with no definition complete 9 centers defined with a single definition. Wow. So, and he's a friend who I met in my first LYD way back. And it was pretty much 90% were reflectors, and our instructor was a reflector. When he and I are together, it's like, it's fluid. And he gets upset because he can't read me. He can read everyone else's energy. And he sits in front of me and he says, I don't understand. I can't read you. So he's one. And then another person that I knew socially years ago I do ballroom dance, and she's one of the dancers, and we knew each other socially, but I didn't know until 3 years ago when I started asking people or talking about this, and they wanted to know that she's a reflector, and she's a very different energy than Brandon. And then I found out recently my cousin's wife is a reflector, and I spend time with them down in South Carolina. I stay with them. And what I can say is we were in conversation, and she said 3 things just in general conversation that made me say, can I please do your chart? Because I just knew from the conversations and how fluid and agreeable and just, I don't want to say sweet, because we're not pushovers. We're not weak, but agreeable and fluid. And 3 different things that she said were either things that I would have said or something that I related to so strongly that I needed to do her chart. So when I saw that she was a reflector, I said, yep, that doesn't surprise me. So there, and when I am with my friend who dances, she doesn't know a lot about this. No, the other 2 women don't. Brandon does. When I'm with my friend who dances, I've shared with her some things, and everything that came out of her mouth, I saw her last week, everything that came out of her mouth that was so reflector, I said, you're such a reflector. So I can pick up on it, but I also, as that earlier question about whether or not you could predict it, there are people that say things that are very reflector-like, or at least I think they seem like something I would say, and they're not reflectors. So it's not a given, but it's interesting because we're all conditioned. So just being around them, Brandon is the easiest because he studies human design. And when conditioning starts to pop up, we can talk about it, but he's also a 4/6. So he's completely externalized. I'm completely internalized, and he's completely externalized. So we're going to behave and act, and our energies are going to be different just in that respect, which is why, going back to the earlier question about, will 1/3s seem different on a different type? There are so many layers to this that make it so beautiful. This is it's like a watercolor painting, and it just blends together and works together so beautiful, like a symphony. So at this stage of where you're at and what you're learning, you will try to simplify it so that you can fit it into your own life. But there's really not that much that's simple about this, except following your strategy and your authority.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my beautiful girl. We now will say to you goodbye, and really appreciate all of your skills and knowledge and experience that you share with us. And I'm pretty sure that it will help all of community in this part of Europe that will search on my YouTube or on any kind of network. So we are now staying here because we are having classes after you, and we will go deeper in a theme of projectors and reflectors. And I would like to say to you, have a nice day, and see you in our class.
Thank you. And if there's any questions that come up in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have, I'm on Facebook. I have the Messenger, and anything, even Jelena, if you need to translate, then by all means, I would be happy to continue with you and your group. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Love, love, love.
Love, love, love.
You.
Bye.
It was nice to see all of you. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for having me.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye.